Hello, I'm Kelsey, a misfit with a passion for crafting and creating. The other day, here at my desk, I noticed I have a huge blank wall above my desk. I don't know why I haven't filled it with anything yet. I'm someone who loves interior design, so I'm not sure why I've overlooked this space. But I am now determined to fix that. But what is worthy of being there? This is a space I spend a lot of time in, so I want something that is fun and reflects my personality and interests. So thinking this over, I realized I have an interest I don't really have any decor or really any merch for, and that's Pokemon. As this realization hit me, I knew exactly what I wanted to make for this wall. So here's what I'm thinking. I will create wall art for each of the original Pokemon starters, and Pikachu, since he's kind of an honorary starter. Each Pokemon will be crafted from paper and then placed in their own wall frame, and I'm going to have each Pokemon coming out of their frame slightly to give a little bit of a 3D effect to this wall art. As for the frames themselves, I want each frame to reflect the Pokemon's ability types. So for Bulbasaur, I want to put greenery and plants on the outside of his frame since he's a grass-type Pokemon. As for Charmander, I want to give his frame a burnt look, as if he burnt the frame himself since he's a fire type. With Squirtle, I want to give his frame a wet water look since, well, he's a water-type Pokemon. Also for Squirtle, I want to make him wearing those iconic Squirtle Squad triangular pointy sunglasses from the Pokemon cartoon. And for Pikachu, I want his frame to look like it got hit by a bolt of lightning. I'll hang his frame slightly crooked to give the illusion that Pikachu struck his own frame with lightning because he's an electric type. To get started, I need to make SVG files for each of the Pokemon since I'll be using a die cut machine to cut them out of paper. To do this, I'm taking an image of each of the Pokemon and dropping them into Adobe Illustrator so I can separate out each color into its own paper layer. Alright, I'm gonna try my best to explain exactly what I'm doing in Illustrator since just showing you a screen capture would be long and boring. So to explain this, I'll be using Pikachu's head as my example. Pikachu's head is made up of 5 colors: yellow, light red, dark red, black, and white. Each of these colors will be a layer of paper, but to make the paper layers look like Pikachu's head when laid on top of each other, I need to cut out face features on each of the layers. So let's start with the top layer, yellow. I will cut out everything that is not yellow. So that's Pikachu's cheeks, mouth, eyes, nose, and the top of the ears. On the next layer, the light red layer, I will cut everything out that is not light red. But also with this layer, I don't need to worry about cutting anything out that is the color yellow either, since I've already made that layer, and that layer will go on top of this layer. So that means I need to cut out the cheeks, eyes, nose, top of ears, and the back of Pikachu's mouth on this layer. On the dark red layer, again, I will cut everything out that is not this layer's color. Except I don't need to worry about cutting out the top 2 layer colors, which I've already made, yellow and light red, which means I just need to cut out the eyes, nose, and the top of the ears. On the black layer, I only need to cut out the white eye pupils because all the other face features are on the top 3 layers I've already made. And for the white layer, I don't need to cut out anything. This layer will just be a backing layer. Now, if I lay all 5 of these layer colors on top of each other in the order I made them, I will get Pikachu's head with all of his face features. I hope that explanation made sense. Now that you know that, I'll be taking this technique and creating colored layers for all 4 of the Pokemon to be cut out in paper. Another thing I needed to do in Illustrator was cut and pre-fit each Pokemon into the size frames I bought. Originally I wanted square frames, but I found these rectangular frames on clearance. When I bought these frames, I didn't really pay attention to the fact that the frame edges themselves were not very wide, so I decided I would have to create new, wider frame fronts so I would have the room I needed to embellish. The last thing I did in Illustrator was create lightning scorch marks for Pikachu's frame. Now that I have all the files I need, it's time to actually work on the physical elements of this project. I started by cutting out the frame fronts, and luckily I have access to a laser cutter. Bad news is I've never actually used a laser cutter before, so this was definitely some trial and error, especially with engraving the scorch marks on Pikachu's frame.
Oh, it is?
Oh yeah, it is way off. Look at all those shapes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not much. Yeah, poo. Well, darn it. Well, I had to paint a new wood sheet yellow since the original one I painted off camera obviously failed when being engraved. Luckily, with my husband's help, the second attempt went much smoother, and I got all 4 of my frame fronts cut out. After popping off the excess wood, each frame just needed a little sanding before I could paint the other 3 frames. I painted Charmander's frame orange, Squirtle's blue, and Bulbasaur's green. While those frames are drying, it's time to cut out all the paper parts I need for my Pokemon. After an hour or so of cutting paper, I had all the parts I needed. To help each layer stand out more, I decided to color the edges of the paper. I used pastel chalk and a sponge to smear the edges. Not sure if this made a huge difference in the overall look, but it was worth trying. Now for the best part, putting these paper Pokemon together. If you would like to make your very own paper Pokemon and have a Cricut or a Silhouette or any other die-cut machine, you can download for free the files I used in the description box below. Now that I got my Pokemon assembled, let's switch back to the frames. Like I said before, the frames will represent each Pokemon's abilities. I already made Pikachu's frame with the lightning blast on it, so his frame's already done. But next I'll work on Charmander's. Before burning the actual frame front I cut out, I wanted to test burn a spare piece of wood instead. Turns out it's freaking hard to burn a thin piece of wood. So I decided to see if a candle would work any better. The candle did burn the wood a little, but I still wanted more of a burnt look. So next I tried my soldering iron, and this actually turned out to give a good texture to the wood. So with that, I had a game plan for this frame. I would first burn the frame front with a candle to get some initial black on it first. And then I would go over top of that with my soldering iron. I don't know how safe this was, but luckily I didn't hurt myself or burn down my house. This frame definitely took me some time, but I think it came out pretty cool. Next, I worked on Squirtle's frame. I wanted Squirtle's frame to look like the ocean, but I'm not gonna lie, this frame didn't come out exactly the way I wanted. I first started by putting a layer of UV resin down. Then, on top of that, I put white paint on it, hoping that it would look like waves, but they just kind of look like clouds. I tried watering the paint down in hopes that it would look less cloud-like, but I'm not sure this worked. I just ended up taking it off with a paper towel. At this point, I realized I'm not really going to get the look I wanted, so I decided to just go ahead and put the top layer of resin on it. I also made the mistake of taping the edges of the frame, which only made the UV resin really uneven on the sides, which then needed to be cut and shaved off. At the very least, Squirtle's frame looks kinda wet. The last frame front I need to create is Bulbasaur's, but before I can do that, I need to glue the frame fronts onto the frames I bought. I gave each frame a good roughening up to help the fronts adhere to the frames with some wood glue. And then I placed some heavy binders on top of them while they dried. Each frame had some excess glue that squirted out that I needed to remove. Then I glued each frame's glass into place so that I have a surface to attach the Pokemon to. Now I can focus on Bulbasaur's frame. Since Bulbasaur's frame will have greenery on it, I decided I should probably place him in the frame first before putting any plants on it. To place him in the frame, I'm using double-sided foam adhesives and sticking him on top of the glass in the frame. Then I simply glued floral greenery anywhere I thought looked good. I also added a little moss to the frame as well. Bulbasaur is now completely done. I just need to add the other 3 paper Pokemon to their frames. Just like Bulbasaur, I used double-sided adhesive and stuck them to the glass of the frames. And with that, I believe these guys are done now. It's time for the final reveal. This project was very fun to make, and I think the Pokemon came out looking great, even though there were some minor imperfections. But regardless, I think they'll be a great addition to my office space. If you made it this far in my video, I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!